Is valid membership pool false data condition, $published_duration_difference less than $settings_duration_difference pool true private_publicly_content pool false. On Tuesday, May 1st, Mufta published a piece titled The Struggle Over Narratives About Syria, written by one of our editors. The piece argued that the Western media narrative on Syria privileges voices that are against the Assad regime and ignores any perspective that supports the Assad regime or is critical of the opposition. In making his argument, our editor relied exclusively on an April 26 press conference held by the Russian delegation to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, in which witnesses denied that the April 7 chemical weapons attack in Douma even happened and suggested it was staged. As has been widely reported elsewhere, there is ample evidence that the attack did, indeed, take place. Other outlets have also reported that the testimony of at least one of the press conference witnesses was secured under duress, and Russia's alliance with the Assad regime and direct involvement in its military attacks against civilians. It is likely other witness testimony at the press conference was similarly manufactured. The article we published did not adequately reflect any of these important points and, instead, uncritically repeated conspiratorial thinking about the April 7 attacks. The editor who wrote this piece has come to recognize these significant errors and, together, we have decided to remove the article from our site. Tweets tagging individuals who peddle in conspiracy theories on Twitter, individuals who the author selected on his own and whose backgrounds we were unaware of as an organization, have also been deleted. At Mufta, we give our editors significant freedom in selecting and writing about topics. It is important to us, as an organization, that our staff has this independence. That being said, maintaining a high degree of journalistic integrity is equally critical. Publishing pieces that are weakly argued and factually inaccurate are anathema to our values. In this case, we made a significant mistake and take responsibility for an error in judgment that resulted in publishing a piece that failed on all those scores. It is for these reasons and these reasons alone that we have removed this piece. The backlash we received to the article was not a factor in our decision. It has, however, underscored the toxicity enveloping conversations on Syria and exposed those who are active in propagating it. Within hours of the article's publication, a number of well-respected journalists and activists on Syria began a smear campaign against both our editor and Mufta itself, accusing both him and us of fascism, genocide denial, and child abuse. Whatever the problems with the article, it hardly qualified as fascism, which is defined as a political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, and that stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and forcible suppression of opposition. Genocide, which is defined as the deliberate and systematic extermination of a national, racial, political, or cultural group, either its commission or denial, or criminal complicity, which is defined as the participation in a completed criminal act of an accomplice, a partner in the crime who aids or encourages, abets, other perpetrators of that crime, and who shared with them an intent to act to complete the crime. For nearly 8 years, this magazine has been dedicated to uplifting marginalized voices, shining a light on individuals and movements fighting for freedom and justice, and opposing oppression of all kinds. On Syria, we have consistently published pieces that have documented the crimes committed by the Assad regime and have pulled no punches in condemning the actions of the government and its supporters. Indeed, many of the people who are now leveling accusations against us, people like Robin Yassin Kassab and Charles Davis, are more than aware of the consistently excellent work we have done on Syria, as we have published their articles, interviewed them, and otherwise profiled and supported their work. Idris Ahmed, who appears to have started this smear campaign and whose work we have also profiled, made very clear in his tweets that he knew the article was out of step with our coverage of Syria. Generally, though, it didn't stop him from continuing his accusations and attacks against us. We can understand why these individuals and others would be upset and surprised by the article we published on May 1st. But, the tone, tenor, and content of their responses have been disappointing to say the least, using ad hominem attacks and resorting to tactics of bullying and intimidation, as happened here, are neither effective nor acceptable. We always welcome criticism and disagreements with the pieces we publish, as long as they are respectful and reasonable. To all those who reached out with that brand of feedback, thank you for taking the time to do so. For those of you who took the opposite tact, your behavior is a disservice to the Syrian people and the movement for a free Syria. It is not just what you believe, but how you fight for a cause that matters. However righteous and moral your position, the tactics and actions you take shape and influence its justness by leveling the most extreme and inaccurate accusations against the editor who wrote that article and this magazine, and by grossly mischaracterizing the nature of our work, you have given the ugliest face to the cause of freedom for Syria. It is not the first you have done this to a friend, it is sadly endemic to the discourse on Syria, and it is unlikely to be the last. In doing so, though, you are destroying, instead of building, a movement. Indeed, by metaphorically cutting down anyone who steps out of line, you have behaved more like the man you hate, Assad, than the innocent people you think you are defending. Muftu is an independent publication and the work we do is a labor of love. We are all volunteers and carve out what little free time we have to keep this magazine going. We do it because we believe the people living in the regions we cover deserve to have their stories told, free from corporate and government interests and influence. If you also believe this is important and want to support our work, we welcome you with open arms. Please know, however, that we do not need or want readers or writers who believe in using threats and smear tactics to intimidate us. If that is your modus operandi, then please do boycott us. Mariam Jamshidi, founder, Editor-in-Chief Mufta. Because we recently instituted a membership scheme, articles on Syria published over 1 year ago are behind a paywall. We have, however, opened some to the public. For those who are curious to see a very small sampling of our work, Yassin Al-Haj Saleh and the Three Impossibilities, an interview with Yassin Al-Haj Saleh, book review. The Impossible Revolution by Yassin Al-Haj Saleh. Yassin Al-Haj Saleh on freedom, home, prison, exile, and the world. Dia has fallen to the Assad regime, but it is not lost forever. Book review. Burning Country, Syrians in Revolution and War by Robin Yassin Kassab and Layla Al-Shami, correcting their narrative. An interview with the authors of Burning Country, Syrians in Revolution and War. Mufta Special Collection, Syria and the Left. We must understand Syria as a popular struggle despite its complications. Disagreeing on the internet, the new McCarthyism. Some leftists would rather be right than principled on Syria. Syria, the international left, and the need for solidarity. Journalists on the left are stripping Syrians of their agency. Syria, the no-fly zone, and the crisis of anti-war opposition. Demystifying the Syrian conflict with Idris